So good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. And I want to welcome you once again to the ERP Cloud Implementation Bootcamp. We are on day 17 of the review session. And today we're going to be looking at receipts. So today we have a packed session. We had some issues with the environment yesterday. I've posted a new environment. But let's just see how things go today with the environment that we have. So without much ado, let's just get started with receipts. Receipting is looking at the funds that our customers pay us. And we're going to be looking at the various types of methods that our customers can pay us. And there are quite a few of them. So just very quickly, we have the manual method. This is where your customer pays you, and then you enter the records manually on the system. You also have a functionality that allows you to upload your remittances via a spreadsheet. You've also got a method by using Lockbox. Lockbox is direct deposit into your bank account from your customer, and then your bank will send you a file that shows you all the receipts that you have, and then you can then load that into the system automatically as well. You've also got the methods of using direct debits, where you will ask your customer to pay you in installments directly to your bank via direct debits. So those are the core methods that Oracle currently supports for the transmission or receipt of funds from our customers. Now, some of you may be wondering, what about methods like credit cards and maybe even the more recent methods, maybe using cryptocurrency and so on, and all these other electronic methods. At the moment, Oracle servers are not PCI compliant, and this is necessary for payment systems to be able to store credit cards information. So Oracle would normally use a third party to receive funds using credit cards for their customers. And I'm yet to be on an implementation where they want to receive funds via crypto, but it's one of those areas that you need to watch the space and see what other methods are going to come up in the future. Payment is always an exciting area, and receipts and payments are kind of growing and using new technologies for that space. So in order for us to do that, we're going to be looking at some of the main areas of the implementation that you need to do that. You would need to set up what is known as receipts classes and receipt methods and sources. Those are the three key areas that you would need. With receipt classes, you're thinking about the creation method, whether it's going to be by manual method or automatic. And there are other things like whether you want your confirmation method, whether there's going to be a remittance. So it's really, the receipt class really determines the processing steps that are required for the receipts. And there could be, as I mentioned, automatic or manual creation of the remittance method. So you have a remittance, you then have the actual application of that receipt. So a remittance is just a notification from your customer to let you know that they're about to transfer some funds to you, and you can start to create the receipt based on that. And then you have your receipt method. Your receipt method is how you derive the remittance count for the automatic receipts. And then it's possible that receipts are not remitted, so you receive them directly, or they are first of all remitted. You can have other forms of remittance like factoring, standard remittance, and so on. And then you have other methods, whether you want to use the auto clearing, automatic clearing, whether you want to use matching rules. I'm going to go through some of the matching rules that you will probably look at when you're setting these things up. And this allows the automatic matching and application of the receipt to the customer and also to the transaction. There are various attributes that can be used to determine how it's going to be applied. So we'll be looking at some of these using the automatic matching, looking at whether a confirmation is required, and so on. And then you have your receipt sources. So your receipt sources are where the receipts are coming from, whether it's going to be whether it's automatic, whether it's manual, whether it's from a bank, whether it's from direct debit, and so on. So all this determine the receipt sources. So the core of the setup for receipts, if you're going to be using the auto receipts, which is what a lot of companies would use, is based on how to apply those receipts. So I'm going to go through the application method, the auto match rules, smart receipts, and also the auto apply. If you're going to be implementing receipts, this is the area where you would spend some time with the customer. You're asking them, how do you actually receive your funds from your customers? And you're looking at it more from helping them to very quickly match the receipts to the outstanding debt from your customers. So there are certain key ways in which this can be done. First one is that we've got here is the auto match. And there are ways in which the auto match recommendations are calculated. It actually uses some kind of algorithm and so on to do this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go into the application. But before that, let me just mention a few things about this auto matching. So you've got auto match, which will look at certain information in the remittances and use that to determine how to match it. So it could be the customer name, it could be the transaction ID, it could be some other reference number. So that's one. The other one is the smart receipts. So with smart receipts, you would normally use this for things like your Lockbox receipts, spreadsheet uploads, and so on. And then auto apply is the application of this, and this they would normally use the smart receipts, auto application, auto match. All of this would normally be used for things like Lockbox, for your receipts upload, for your remittances that you receive from the bank, and so on. So your Lockbox is just a file that will generally be sent to the bank, so from the bank to you. So that's basically what would happen. So I'm going to go through some of the various elements as to how the auto matching starts to, first of all, match the variables, and then the other side of it is how it then applies that to the outstanding transaction. So let's have a look at some of these rules that can be used. So first of all, you have your Lockbox receipts as an example. So just think about this Lockbox receipt as a file that comes in from the bank. And inside this file, there are certain values or attributes in the file. Let me see if I can actually show you an example of what this file looks like, just to give you some context. So the scenario here is that your customer has paid, they've paid by electronic method, they've sent the file to your bank has now generated a file, which is then sent to you, and then you, when I say you, I'm talking about the business, and then they now want to use this to apply directly to the transaction. So let me open this file. I have an example here. Let's see if this will open. It's actually a CSV file. So let me, so this is an example of what the file looks like. So by looking at this file, you probably think, well, what can I use this file? What can I do with this file? But this is an example of what a lockbox file will look like. It would have various, it will have a way in which it's been set up. It will have various values to determine what each of these elements are. So the question is, how does it take this value, for example, and then use this to match to a transaction and then apply this to the relevant transaction. So that's basically what I want to take you through. Now, if you're not technical, don't worry too much about this, but just think that there are rules that needs to be set up within the application as a functional person that would translate to this. And normally the bank will give you sample data. It will tell you how this works in terms of what each of those sections mean in the file. So the first thing is you want to check to see whether there is whether a remittance reference is specified. But even before that, the auto apply option needs to be enabled in your receivables options, and your auto match rule set will need to be created, and you need to specify whether you want to, how you want to do your auto matching. So if the remittance reference is specified, the question is that how are you then going to find the transaction? Now, if it's specified, then you need to look for your match receipts by rule. So let me just go to customer record and show you in the customer site. I'm going to switch off my video for speed. So if I go to receivables, billing, and then I go to manage customers, I'm going to search for Pinnacle Technologies. So this is my customer. So at the account level, there are some defaults that are set up at the profile history level. So here you've got some defaults here. Match receipts by transaction number. So for this customer, we know that receipts are matched by transaction number. Now, there is a setup also at the receivables options. Yeah, that can also be used, but I'll take you through that in a moment. So match receipts by option. So it looks at the customer and profile options, or there's also default document type hierarchy. So if you look at that, look at what is it going to be matched by transaction number. It checks the line to see if the transaction number is there and determines the next thing. So if the transaction number exists, then the question is that what does it do? Then it does the auto matching. Yeah, it then does the auto match. It will look at that and decide that that's going to be auto matched to that transaction number. Now, if there's an exact match, then it will use the application rule set. So the application rule set is what then decides how it's going to apply it. The application rule set. Okay, that's in my, let me just do a duplicate of this. Show you the application rule set. Okay, that's part of the setup, but let's just go into the setup. So one thing I've realized is that there's a lot of setup for receivables, which are all over the place, and the way in which certain rules are triggered is based on how the rule is set up and also where it's being triggered. So let's just, so application rule set. So in my application rule set, I could say prorate all. So when it looks at the value, it would just prorate everything if the match is an exact match. Or it would do lines, it would do line and tax, or do line first and then tax afterwards. But if it's 100% one-to-one, then I would just use that as 100%. So you got your application rule sets as one of the things that they would use. If there's no exact match, in terms of customer and transaction, you just use customer and transaction recommendations, or if it's an exact match and there is an over or under application, you use the application exception rule set. Now, this application exception rule set is found in the customer site. This is the application exception rule set, overpayment exception rule. Yeah. So use the default auto match. Use the overpayment application. Actually, let me just check something here. Okay. Yeah, it's one other setting that I need to show you here as well, which is in the receivables options. See. System options. US1 business unit. So if I look at my, so for the in the system options, this is the application rule set that it would use to prorate all. So that's the rule set it will use. Then it will then go to the site to look at the application exception as site. So that's basically what happens. You can see that the setup is, you've got some in the site, you've got some in the options, system options, you've got some again in the site, and so on. So that's basically how it works. And if there is no remittance reference, actually, let me show you something about the remittance reference. So when it's matching cash processing, it's going to match, this is the auto cash, match receipts by transaction number first. So that's the default. It can then use any of these other values to also do the matching of the receipts. So that's one thing to remember. So if there's no remittance reference, what it will do, it will just use the auto cash rule set. So this is the auto cash rule set that it would use. Oldest transaction first. So we look at the oldest transaction for that customer and then just apply it directly. That's what it will do there. And if the match is not found, if match is not found, it'll leave the receipts as applied or on account. If match is found, it will use the application rule set that you have here at the profile level. So that's what would happen. And then if the match is found, then if there's any balance, it just leaves that on account. So that's basically what happens. Now, to just give you an example of this, so you can imagine that you've got these transactions coming through from the bank. Just look at these invoices carefully. So we have these transactions coming in: invoice A, invoice B, invoice C, invoice D. These are the invoice numbers. Transaction reference, you've got the sales order, you've got the PO number, you've got invoice number. Invoice number is this trans number. Now, so if you look at the receipt, so this is the transaction, these are the invoices, this is the receipt. The first receipt is 1,200 for US dollar A1 P0 A1. So it will look at this remittance reference and say that this links to A1 P01 A1, and it will just match this to this using the transaction reference. But there is the amount is not the same, and then it would then decide to match using the auto match, and then use the auto match rule set for this one using the application rule set. For the second one, it will look at the, again, look at the remittance reference, but there's a slight difference between the two. Again, the amount is not the same. US dollars. So again, here it will use automatic, but there's no exact match, and then it will then use the recommendations. So that's what it would use. And then you have the auto cash rule set. It's got $500. There's no remittance reference. So what it will do, it will then try to match this because it's got a euro value. It will try to match it to this one. And then you just put it on the, you use the auto cash and then put it on the account. And then it would, it would then use the application for the first one, $500, $300. Again, it will use the application exception rule set to do that. So that's basically how it works. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a transaction. So if I might not be able to go through a full Lockbox example because it takes a while to set it up, but there are videos on how it works. But I'm just going to take you through what needs to happen from a setup perspective, and we should be able to see an example. Hopefully, the environment should be a little bit more easier for us. Let's put it that way. So I'm going to go into the setup. Let's cancel this customer area. So let me just come out of this, and I'm going to go into my setup and maintenance. And I'm just going to show you some of the main setups for receipts. Receipts is another area where not many people want to get involved in this, and there are, especially within the AR space. So, but then it's one of those areas that if you're proficient in it, then you could be a very valuable individual on a project. So receipt classes and methods, and I'm going to look at the example of electronic. So most companies would use electronic. creation method is automatic. So the one that we did previously was the manual method, and the remittance method is just standard. So we're expecting that there will be a remittance, and we want to use automatic clearing. So if I select my EFT, so what I did was I created a receipt method for my Acme EFT, and then I assigned my US1 business unit to it with my bank account. Remember, we created this bank account yesterday, so I assigned my bank account to it. Now for automatic processing, because we want this to be automatic clearing, and we want to use some of the rules that we have here as an example, then I need to specify how it's going to process the receipts. So I've just made it easy, number of receipts rule, 1 per invoice. So again, you've got the option depending on how customers send you funds. So I've said I want 1 per invoice. I want my receipt maturity to earliest. And again, if I'm going to be printing out any remittance or direct debits, then you can specify the print template. Now with direct debits, there are rules to say that if you want to take money out of somebody's account in certain countries, then you need to give them some kind of notice. So again, this is the pre-notification template that you could use for that purpose. So these are just some examples, and this is the core of what you need to set up for your receipt method, receipt class and method. So that's my receipt method. And then the receipt sources. So let's go to, again, customer payments, where my receipts are coming from, receipt sources. So for my receipt sources, I've created one called Acme Automatic Receipts. So these are, so if your source is check, if it's from Lockbox, if it's automatic, you can create your source where the funds are coming from. So I've said Acme Automatic Receipts. My type is manual, sorry, automatic. So I want this to be auto-generated. I'm using my EFT receipt class, and I've got this as my receipt method for my bank account, and I can give my batch number. I give it a batch number. So that's just an example. So I've got my receipt sources, and then the next is just to look at some of the auto match rule sets. So let me just go into some of the manage my auto match rule set, which we looked at earlier on. So I'm saying that I want to auto match. Now this one is end dated. So let's look at this default auto match. Now, this is the very interesting part, because what Oracle have done is that they've used certain weighting depending on all the bits that you've entered to determine which is most likely. So customer recommended recommendation threshold, max minimum match threshold. So they've put, so you can put some of this in here. There are some serious mathematics and AI behind this stuff, and some formulas and so on. So if you want to get into the details of that, have a look at some of these help files, and that tells you all the different mathematical models that they've used and the recommendation for how this is going to work. And it uses this auto match rule to find the matching, to find the matching of based on this recommendation. So you discover that if you have lots and lots of receipts, the system will use whatever you set up here to determine the best one to match, and that's how it uses this in this automatic matching rule. Other things that are useful is the auto match rule set receipt exception. Let's have a look at an example. I think we should be able to do an example. Right. If you want to set up Lockbox, let me just show you Lockbox setup, manage Lockbox. And for Lockbox, again, okay, they've got one here. So Lockbox, receipt method Lockbox. So you set up the how you want the transaction number, batch size. These are just your defaults, but it's the transmission that's really the key. So here you're specifying the bank, you're specifying the batch size, match receipts by, which is your default way in which you want to match your receipts, and then your auto match rule set. So you use these values to determine again how to match within Lockbox as an override, and whether you want to use auto apply. Now, but the main part of this is the transmission. How is the file being transmitted to you? And this is where, okay, there are no examples here. Otherwise, okay, there are some. So you could, for example, there are different formats. You've got BAI formats. You've got EDI. So these are all the transmission protocols that are being used. You've got the Zenjin is for Japanese. They've got some weird naming convention there. So Japanese Zenjin bank file, BAI2. So if I select one of these BAI just for, I mean, these are standards, just like we looked at ISO yesterday. So when the file comes in, it will have a format, it will have a header, it will have a service header. So if I look at the file that I opened up earlier on, let's go back to this file. It would have sequence number 1 would mean something, you know, that's the transmission header. Number 2 is a service header, you know, sequence number 5 there is my Lockbox header. Number 6 is my payment. So these are my payments. So anything in these lines refer to my payment 1, 2, 3, 4. Receipt A1, A2, A3, A4 refer to these 4 receipts that we have down here. And then you can see the details within this file, where the amount, these are the amounts down here. PO 1, 2, 3, 4. PA, you can see the details. These are the details of the amounts that have been received, which is number 4. Number 4, overflow payment receipt line. So, and then you then have starting position, you know, where the exact position of the data is in the file. So it tells you that position 1 is this, position 2 is that, and so on and so forth. All these commas represent each of these positions area. So if you're not technical, don't worry about it. Normally, as a functional person, you would get this specification from the bank, and they would ask you to just set this up. They put a file in a folder, and you just upload it. You know, you run a program, and then it brings the data in. So that's basically what happens. So you have your receipt file now. So that's your Lockbox example. Now, what I'm going to do, let's see if let me make it easy because of time. Wow, I'm just going to run an example. I'm going to run an example of a receipt. So I think I created a receipt yesterday, an invoice yesterday. So let me, okay, let me just very quickly fill in. So we're going to assume that we have an outstanding Standing amount, I think it was, let me just do it from between 1st of March and the 28th of March. And see if so that's the invoice, 43,800. So this is outstanding, and our customer wants to pay this by automatic, 43,800. So that's the amount they want to pay. But we have received the remittance. Now I'm going to enter the remittance manually, because normally this will come in maybe by Lockbox or something like that, but I haven't got the file prepared. So let's go to receivable, and I'm going to just create an automatic receipt. Create an automatic receipt. US1 receipt method, EFT, Acme EFT, automatic, and no other information. Invoice number, due date, from to number. Taking the transaction number. Okay, let me just take place as a batch. I'm not sure if this is going to do what I wanted to do. Let me just try. Let me create it as a manual receipt first, or not receiving it manually, but receiving it as a, and then I'll create the batch. Business unit, US1, receipt method, EFT, electronic, receipt number, RCV, let's make up the number, 43,800, and it's for 10080 for my Pinnacle Technologies. So we're saying that they've paid in by direct transfer and not by direct debit. So let's open receivables. Let's search. Okay, so we have this. So I want this to be auto match to this. So let me just submit. Let's just submit and auto apply. Let's see what would happen. See. Okay. So that's my receipt information. So what I'm going to do, so right now is not applied. Save and close. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do create receipt remittance batch. Business unit. Receipt class. EFT. My bank. Let's create my receipt. So Receipt date is today. So that's my receipt. So save and close. So my receipt remittance batch is created. But at the moment, so what we're saying here is that we received the remittance. We don't know what it's for, but we want the we want the system to auto apply this based upon the settings, based upon the transaction number. Now, I haven't even put any reference at all. I haven't put anything, but it's just there. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go into funds capture, and I'm just going to create a settlement from funds capture. Now, within funds capture, you can set up a number of things. So let me just go in here and manage my settlement. So let me just search. The settlement batch. Our payment method will be my bank account transfer. Funds capture profile. So this is how I'm going to use the sample payment process profile. So the file, what should have happened is that the file should have come into a specific location, and then I should have been able to pick it up, but I've created that manually, and I'm hoping that this will pick it up. So payment system, payee. Again, I've got videos on all of this so that you can view the setup of how all these are set up. I think there's something I've missed, but I just got that feeling that I've missed something in my steps. Manage settlement batches. Let's have a look. None found. Okay. Let's see if it's. Oh, okay. Let me just check something in my receivables. So receipt batches unapplied. Let's have a look at my unapplied receipts. So I should have it here. So it's still unapplied. 0 recommendations. From date, let me first to the 28th. Customer 10080. Thought it would pick up everything, but right. Okay. Submit, approve, and format. Let's try that. The step I missed was the approval. There's an approval step for the receipt remittance batches. Yeah. US1. right, where is, this is the one, this is the, yeah, so this is the one here. So yeah, so it's picked it up, but I should have gone back to approve it. So let's approve. So that's approved. And then let's go and check the settlement. A lot of these programs will be run automatically in the background. So we're running this just to show you the steps that happens behind the scene, but the automatic creation and settlement will happen in the background. So let's check to see. Yeah, there you go. So it's submitted. So now let's see how it would apply this on account. Let's retrieve the acknowledgements. Let me go back and check the check in case it's fully applied it. 10080 transaction date between the 1st March. So let me check to see whether this has been applied. View installments. Due date telling me that it's still open. Hasn't applied it. Even showing an account. So what step did I miss? Receivable. Applied. Yeah, it's still not applied. Should apply this automatically. So that means that there's something in the setup. So what should happen? Let me just explain what should happen. Might be that there's certain things running in the background, but let me just explain what should happen. Now, in funds capture, just use direct debit as an example. So what would happen is that create the invoices, you create the automatic receipts, you approve, which is what we've done, and then it just goes forth and does the formatting and confirm. Again, we're using direct debit here as an example. So with a direct debit, you need to first of all send a file off to the customer that you want to take money from their account. So, but once you've done, but the process is pretty much the same, but in this case, you have the remittance, and then you're just matching that remittance to what you've got outstanding. So you go on, you confirm, you create your remittance batch, you then go on and approve. And then you go to settlements, which is where we went, you create your settlement batches, and then you transmit to the bank. So that's basically the flow of what happens. Now, sometimes you have to then proceed with these other two steps. This is where you clear the receipts or eliminate. Excuse me. So that's the core steps. So I think I probably missed the order of one of these and then didn't create the auto matching, but and sometimes it's running some things behind the scene as well. So any questions? Any questions on this? Because I know time is fast spent. Remember that it's a review session, and let's look at what we.
Hi, Yemi.
Hi, Raymond. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to inquire from you. You know the new environment from Oracle Cloud.
Yeah.
The Lockbox configuration.
Yes.
Is there any material changes compared to the EBS setup?
Good question. To be honest, I can't even remember what the EBS setup looked like, but in terms of the positioning of the characters and all that, I believe that they're very similar. Screens may be different, but the logic of how it works is pretty much the same.
Okay.
What I know that it's different is some areas of the transmission protocol. There's one additional steps that I think you need to create in the transmission protocol, but the last time I did EBS payments for receipts was, to be honest, is more than 10 years ago. But from memory, I think they're very, very similar. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I know it's quite a long time.
Yeah.
The EBS suite platform has been in existence.
Yeah.
For R11 and R12. So I know so I was just wondering, maybe they had done some significant changes to the Fusion platform now. Okay.
No, if payment is pretty much the same.
Pretty much. Okay.
You have your payment process profile, you have your disbursements, you have the output file, which is pretty much the same in terms of using BI Publisher. That's in release 12. In release 11i, I think payments, if I remember, it was integrated with the modules. It wasn't actually a separate module. It was actually part of payables or receivables.
Yes.
Yeah. So with release 12, it then became a module where you could configure it in one place. So you have that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
As well. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Oh, Yemi, I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
The new environment.
Yes.
I know like all the users we set up, they're all gone. We've got to like start from scratch. But my other question I've got is, the other users that you already done who are like super users that we had to use to do the expense, for example,
those ones are still there.
Or they're still there with the same password and everything?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Okay.
So if you want to use, if you go back to the starter course, all that will be there. I'll try and see if this environment that we have now, I'll make this available. I think we can still have this for another couple of weeks.
Okay.
I'm trying, but I'm not promising yet, maybe in a couple of months to have our own dedicated environment. So yeah, but watch this space on that one. So where we wouldn't have any of these issues anymore. We'll have our own environment for at least 3 months where we can build our own stuff and do our own bits. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, the settlement area that you went to, is that part of AR itself, or is that a separate module? I wasn't sure. I'm not seeing that.
Yes. So this part is part of AR, even though, sorry, funds capture, even though funds capture and payments are actually pretty much the same. So if you look at the in the setup, in the setup, to set up your payments, when you look at your payment methods and all this payment process profile, you have the same one with customer payments, but they're actually the same. I'll show you an example. So if you go to manage formats, for example, they're using the same managed formats. This is the same area. So here you have your funds capture. This is for receivables.
Yeah.
And disbursement, you have this for payables. So they're all in the same area.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
No problem. So that's something to note. This. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah. Good evening.
Yeah. Hi.
Okay. So I seem not to get on how to load user role. I think I checked the video. It's still, you said you were going to make a video on that.
Yes, I think I do have one. Creating user roles will be in the, let's have a look. Main course, I think, I can't remember which day we did that. Probably security. Probably in this.
Yes, in that day, yes, I watched that video, but in the video you said you were going to, as in you had the same error with I think your Mac, so
okay,
you're going to do a separate video.
Oh, this is on how to load users using,
yes, on how to load them, the user roles, the what's it now, the HDI, using the HDI.
HDI. Right.
Okay. No, HDL, yes.
HDL loader.
Yes.
So I didn't do that. Oh, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one. Then the other question, not related to this class, is there a way to load bank details for suppliers? Because I checked.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Can you show me?
Hold on, let me just show you. I'm just writing this one down on the HDL loader.
Yeah.
Now, I think I thought maybe I had a video on that, but maybe I had it in the previous one and I was going to attach a video to this. So let's go to the, it's in docs.oracle.com. So let's go to docs.oracle.com. So it's pretty much the same in terms of how you load the suppliers. But then there is also the schema, APIs and schema. Bank is not in, I think bank for suppliers is not in the usual place. I think, where is bank for suppliers? It's not in procurement. on the implementation, ADFDI loaders, and payments. This is it, this supplier bank account import. So this is where you'll find that. Yeah. So this is the Excel spreadsheet that you would load just to load the bank details. Yeah. So I think you were looking for it on the.
Yes, I was looking for it on the procurement.
Yeah,
yes.
on that procurement. So this is where it is.
Then, sorry, just for clarity purpose too. If you are creating the bank, now, when I go to the application under supplier, you know, there's two buttons, the one that you would have to create create the bank, and the other one where you have to search for the existing bank and attach it to it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I use, you know, in EBS, if you create a bank under supplier, it's going to create, like, it's going to duplicate, you know, the bank in under your cash management.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, do you understand?
Yeah.
I want to ask if it's the same thing here too.
No, because the bank is shared, the bank branches are shared, and then the if you remember yesterday, I think it was yesterday or maybe even last week, I mentioned, I think it was yesterday that I showed you this slide of the bank model. So bank and bank branches are shared. Bank account is then used in cash management, not the bank and bank branch. In EBS, it's rolled into one. That's indicated. So they then share bank account with the modules, but the creation of the bank and the bank branch is shared even by suppliers and customers.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's separate. So suppliers and customers and employees will use this bank and bank branch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. So I can use the create button and it will just create it for me in
for suppliers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. And the uploading, what is it doing? Is it creating? It's creating, right?
Yes, you create it. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I should reserve the last question tomorrow.
Hi.
Hello. Yes. Hi.
So when the class ends on Friday, how long are we going to still get support? I just want to know, like, if I post if I have a challenge and I post the question, would we still continue to get that support?
Yes, as long as I'm still an Oracle consultant.
Ah, that's good then.
I'm sure there are people on the line who have been, let me just check. Maybe one or two people that I've been supporting or helping and mentoring for at least 4 or 5 years. Yeah. Who are experts and kind of trying to refresh their knowledge all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot to do, like all the assignments, and still have some.
Yeah.
That's good to know that.
So don't worry. Yeah. If someone else has a question. Asido, you got a question?
It's been answered, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Thanks. Thank you. So any other questions before we close for today?
Okay, I still have one more question.
Go on, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so now you logging into Oracle Fusion as in the back end where you can query the tables. I think you said you were going to show us that too.
I did in reports.
Oh, reports.
Yeah. And I think somebody was asking, somebody found a SQL editor that works with Fusion. Do you mind sharing with us what that one is, Dominic?
Hi, I can. I'll post to the community.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Dominic.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks so much. Right. So,
Sorry, I have a question. Sorry.
okay. Yeah, go on.
Yes, my question is, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a session on how to create custom roles.
Yes. Yes. I think it was last week. Yeah.
Okay. So how do we get that information?
Oh, okay. Because I've recorded all the sessions, so
Okay.
you can always go back. And I think it's even in one of these, trying to remember which day it was. Reporting, approvals, probably.
Technical.
Yeah, probably this day, probably day
Okay.
11.
Okay, I'll go and check.
Create custom role.
Create custom role. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah, have that. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Yeah, Dominic, you have your hand up.
Hi, Yemi, can APIs be used to process payments as well, say from a third-party payment processor?
Yes, it can. It can. And that's actually that's a good one, because that's one area that, because if you're going to be using third parties, then they would use APIs. Now, I haven't checked recently whether Oracle has released all of them, but let me just check to see whether we have ones for payments. I know we have for bank branches, and I think payables payments, create manual payments, so you can, so you got get payments, so you got it there. Receivables, receipt methods, receipt payment terms. So yeah, I'm not sure if we've got it for receivables. Okay, yeah, we have. This is just for standard receipts, remittance references, but I'm not sure if we have it, if we have the full one for receipts. Yeah, but always watch that. But this is just for standard receipts, but not for we got remittance. Yeah, okay. So watch the space on that one.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Right. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Tomorrow's class is 4 p.m., right?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, tomorrow's class we're starting 1 hour early. Yeah, 4 to 5 p.m. Yeah, UK time. Okay. So if there's
I've got a question. Like if one is gonna go through all the labs again, instead of kind of trying to create our own stuff, is it easier to use the already seeded ones, or we still have to?
Yeah, it's easier to use the seeded ones until I get my until we get, let me use
your own environment. Yeah, okay.
Environment. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Trying to negotiate with Oracle to get something that is much more permanent. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you all, and see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. UK time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.